Welcome, Media Men Online. I'm Dan. This is Isaiah.
What up?
I was just complaining about the terrible lineup of Thanksgiving games we always get. This is not the sports show I do. However, I still get to complain about it because every year the NFL breaks all these traditions, whether it be anything from dress code to place any types of rules and anything like that. They like to break the traditions. I think your leg's shaking this desk.
Oh.
And the only tradition that they haven't broken is the Lions and Cowboys always playing Thanksgiving. Anyways. All right, let's talk about... So this is going to be our episode for the top 10 movies of 2024. Now, of course, this will come out a week or so before the end of the year. There's a movie we're both looking forward to at the end of the year called Nosferatu, but that'll have to be counted in the best of 25. That's just how it works.
Yeah, because it comes out Christmas Day. I also feel bad for the movie because like you're dropping it Christmas Day. Who's gonna see it Christmas Day? I'll be seeing it from the guy who brought that gave us The Northman. So
yeah,
you know,
a lot of Jewish people, maybe because they Jewish. Anyone who doesn't celebrate or anything like it's kind of weird because I don't want to get into a whole thing, but Christmas is kind of like it's become so like commercialized that people forget what it's about. But it's still the top. I would say the top holiday in this country, so it should be treated as such, even if you don't celebrate it.
I mean, it has its own music genre. What other holiday has its own music genre?
So I left these here last time we did this, but my sister-in-law went to Japan, and her and my mother-in-law. So my sister-in-law lives in Singapore, and my mother-in-law lives here, and not here, but in this city. And she went to Japan with my sister-in-law, and they got me a little gift. I don't know whether I want to open it or not. I definitely don't want to play with them because it's such a unique little thing. But it's even got like the little yen sticker price on it. She got me a pack of Attack on Titan playing cards. Like, oh, he likes pitch. I don't know, but she knows I love Attack on Titan, so. And I had this moment, so there was this cool thing coming out, and like, oh, maybe I can see if Rachel can grab it. But she doesn't live in Japan. I was thinking like there was like a Japan only release for something that I wanted, but she was just visiting there, so my brain got confused. But all right, let's talk about a couple things before we get into this top 10. And I want to first start off with Archer. So I talked about everything except the final episode last week, and the finale was little over an hour long, which is roughly 3 episodes because typically you get the commercial break, so a 30-minute single episode is usually like 20, so it was probably an hour and a half time slot when it aired. But I wanted to give credit to spoilers for Archer from 2 years ago. Spoilers for the finale. They wrapped the show up. There's a couple loose ends with Barry and the dude from the CIA. They wrap those up nicely. They wrap up the story with Tatiana, his Russian ex-wife, all that stuff. It's one of the few series. The reason I wanted to talk about it is because they end the series with Archer being on the run, but only because he's still doing spy stuff. They shut down the agency. He's still doing spy stuff. So the idea is they leave you in a happy place. Even though the agency's shut down, Lana's pretending that she doesn't know where he is whenever like the authorities come by. Like, have you seen this man? Whatever. And he and Archer and Pam end up continuing on as like rogue agents doing good for the world. So they wrap it up nicely. It's one of the few series I've watched where I'm like, oh, yeah. Very, very nice ending. So I just wanted to give it credit where it's due. Now, as much as I hated the woman who's up here on the screen. I don't think they can see my mouse, but behind Lana, the finale left a good taste in my mouth. You know how bad endings can ruin good movies? Well,
Yeah.
maybe
Well,
not fully ruin, but
We'll get to that with some of the movies we're going to talk about.
yeah, that's true. That is very true.
And just some honorable mentions maybe we might mention beforehand, but
Yeah. Yeah, but it was a very satisfying ending to a series that, for the most part, I followed along with until close to the end. So
Mm-hmm.
kudos to Archer for wrapping it up nicely. All right. This is one I stumbled across. So it's on HBO Max. Or sorry, Max. Why
It's
the
HBO
name that
Max.
you're known by? Why wouldn't you drop the Max and just call it HBO? Everyone knows HBO.
Because it's not just HBO anymore. It's HBO and Warner Brothers and Discovery. That's why it's
Corny.
just Max. But it's like, no, everyone still calls it HBO. It's like, it's
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah.
People call it Twitter. People call it HBO Max.
All right, real quick, Salem's Lot. I watched this. It's on HBO. No, I'm just gonna call it HBO, not even Max anymore. It's on the HBO streaming service, so I watched it. It's about vampires in a small town. Just came out this year, and the whole time I'm sitting there, this movie feels like they're cutting out a ton of stuff. And I knew it was a remake, but I didn't know that it was a remake of a TV series. This is also on HBO Max, and it's combined into movie form. It's a 300-minute movie. The one from 1979 takes its time, and it builds out these characters and these sorts of relationships and the slow realization that this town is turning into a vampire town because of this Nosferatu-looking mother flipper here. This guy in the center, obviously. No, this is Jim. He works at the hardware store. He's the guy. He's turning everybody. He has like an assistant who goes and kidnaps kids and stuff. It's pretty weird. But having seen now both of them, the one from 2024, all it does is take scenes from the thing and drag and drop them with a new cast. That's literally all it does. So I guess if you want an abridged version of the 70s series, watch this, because it's a very easy watch. It's very short, hour and 53 minutes. But I would recommend, if you have the time, but you can also cut it into 30-minute chunks. You can tell that it's supposed to be a series because of the way it does like these blackout breaks. So I would recommend watching the 79 version. There are some 70s things that you kind of have to, work around. But also the 2024 version takes place in the 70s, so it's the exact same thing. And the 2020s version is a little bit corny with how they portray the vampires, but
I'm sure.
I would recommend
it's a
this one.
70s movie, so
They didn't change it for 2024. Yeah. Highly recommend Salem's Lot 1979. Medium, like, if you don't have time to watch the 300-minute one, medium to low recommend for the 2024. It's all right. This
main
guy who
actor
looks like Tom
was
Holland's
Roland.
very good.
Well, he was the guy he's Bob and Top Gun, right?
Yeah.
He's also playing Sentry in the the next MCU.
He's also
movie.
playing Tom Holland in the Tom Holland documentary
Yeah.
about his life. All right, so we're going to get into our top 10 movies of 2024, but we each have a couple of honorable mentions, and to spoil Isaiah's, I already have it up on screen, so Terrifier
Yeah.
3.
Yep, Terrifier 3. I'll keep it short and sweet because it's the honorable mention, but it's a very fun movie, and just we've talked about it before, kind of the idea. But if you like Terrifier and Terrifier 2, you're gonna like Terrifier 3. It's once again just like they have this scene in the movie that is just really disgusting, and you're like, why? But it's just once again art
5 years
makes
later.
it so entertaining. Yeah, it takes place timeline
So-
wise 5 years later.
Where does this rank in the Terrifier
It's my second favorite Terrifier. Behind the first one. The first one's my favorite. Like the first one I'd give like an 8 or 9 out of 10 to. This one I'd give like a 7 out of 10, and then the second one I'd give like a 6 out of 10.
Gotcha.
And because this one fixes the only reason why it's more of the same of the second one, except it does the finale doesn't drag on. That's my problem with the second movie, is the finale just drags on way too long. This one doesn't. In fact, I felt like this movie had the opposite problem, where it felt like things jumped around too quickly. Where I was just like, slight spoilers for Terrifier 3, but there's like a character. I don't even say that. There's a character who just dies off screen, but they show their body later, but they died in a very similar manner to a different character. So I didn't realize that it was that same character, or it was a different character, until I looked it up after the fact. Because I was like, wait, where'd this guy go? He just disappeared from the movie. It's like, oh, they killed him off screen, and I didn't realize because they just jumped around a little too quickly.
They couldn't fit it all in 2 hours and 5 minutes.
There's a lot that goes on in that movie.
All right, my first honorable mention is Trap. Now, please do not pay attention to this user score. So Josh Hartnett, absolutely fantastic, playing a serial killer pretending to be a normal person at a concert with his daughter, where the entire police force knows he's going to be there. We find out why later on. Such a tense feeling movie. And it's kind of a weird situation. So when you look at Dexter, you're rooting for him because he's killing off the scum of the earth. This guy seems to just be killing random people. But they set it up in a way, the cinematography, the writing, all that stuff, where you feel the tension that he's feeling. And you're rooting for him, but you don't know why you're rooting for him.
Josh Hartnett is killing it. Like, he deserves some sort of nomination for something, because he's fantastic in this movie. Inside Out 2. I mean, if you liked the first movie, I say you're going to get not exactly the same thing from this movie, but what I like about it is it's not just the first movie, but again, it is an evolution of the ideas from the first movie and doing something new with it in the second movie. And just like how the first movie helped me realize the idea of like, oh, all emotions are important for very specific reasons, and you're not supposed to be suppressing certain ones. And there's actually moments in the first movie that made me like tear up. This movie, and this has come from somebody who deals heavily with anxiety, focuses on that and helped me understand that in a very unique and specific way. And it's just very well written. You know, Pixar's been on a losing streak, I feel like, with a lot of the movies they've had, especially with sequels. And that's why this one was such a breath of fresh air. It's not perfect. I think some of the characters are unnecessary in the movie, like envy or boredom. But overall, still a very fun, good movie. And I appreciate that, like, Joy goes through a character arc in the first movie, and unlike, let's say, The Incredibles 2, where we don't know what to do with this character, let's just have them revert back to the way they were and go through the same character arc. No, she is a grown character, and you can feel that, and they're doing something new with it. I can't recommend this one enough, even though it is... That's the surprising thing. It's a Disney movie, but it feels like Pixar back when Pixar used to put out quality consistently, even with the sequels.
All right, Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is my last honorable mention. It is a World War II movie, but this is the type of World War II movie that I really enjoy, because World War II movies are a little too real for me. A little too... I go to movies to enjoy them, not to be depressed about the millions of people that died during World War II. But this is a covert operation during World War II. It's to help end the war. And it has Henry Cavill, who's infinitely awesome. Alan Ritchson plays like this Swedish or German maniac guy who's awesome.
He's amazing.
Every single character play their part very well.
Very fun.
And it's a ton of fun to watch. And it's very weird in a positive way. And apparently it's based on a true story. So and at the end they kind of show what the real people had done and all that good stuff. There's an awesome closing like scene. The whole gimmick is that they have to cut off the German submarines. It's such a fun movie. I think the fact that this is 71% is really bothering me, but Henry Cavill steals the show, and Alan Ritchson he's got star potential, but I don't know if they have enough. If this movie got enough praise for him to be pushed into the spotlight. He's been in a few other things before, but he is excellent. And at number 10, we have Longlegs. FBI agent Lee Harker is a gifted new recruit assigned to the unsolved case of an elusive serial killer. The case takes complex turns, unearthing evidence of the occult. Harker discovers a personal connection to the merciless killer and must race against time to stop him before he claims the lives of another innocent family. Isaiah.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, this movie, I feel like I'm going to say that like this was definitely the best movie of this type, and I can see why it has a 66%. But let's just go like right off the rip. Excellent cinematography.
By the way,
Excellent.
Spoilers for all of these movies.
Yeah, we're going to try to avoid spoilers as much as we can, but obviously in order to get into our full thoughts on why
I'm
they're
going to talk
placed on
about the
list.
ending, so
Yeah, because that's the thing is like excellent cinematography, excellent acting, a very intriguing and interesting idea that I feel like is super let down with how disappointing and basic the ending is. And we were talking about this a little bit beforehand, but we usually don't let bad endings ruin the entire experience for us. But there's a couple coworkers that I've talked to, and they end up saying, "Oh, I didn't like the movie because the ending was so boring." And it's like, I can get why you say that because like the ending's super predictable, but I think it deserves to be on this list because of everything else it did. It's a very stylistic movie that I think nails the tone it's going for, and it's a super fun watch. It's just you walking out of that movie theater feeling slightly disappointed.
the beginning of the movie had me worried that the entire movie was going to be riddled with jump scares because they do that one with Nicolas Cage right in the beginning.
That's the only one.
They play it's one of the only ones. The other jump scare was the gunshot, but that was a design jump scare without like the twang of the loud violin or whatever.
Yeah.
But the ending of the movie sees that Nicolas Cage kills himself, but the devil is really real. All that stuff. Now, what I would have preferred that would have made this a lot more interesting is if Nicolas Cage was some sort of cult leader type guy who was getting all these dads to kill their kids just because he's like this, I guess, Hitler type guy where he gets all these people together, motivates them with the belief that, you know, uses the devil as an excuse. This is what my ending would have been. And that's what I would have preferred it to turn out. Now, they do a little bit with Micah Monroe's character, Lee Harker. She's like a partial psychic. She's kind of like a half psychic. They spend a little time with that, but
it's just what part of what made it intriguing is like when she looked into like one of what happened. It's like, oh, it's this nice normal family. Then the dad just instantly, for some reason, just kind of goes crazy. And that's why I feel like if it was going to be like, oh, he was this super duper cult leader, that turn kind of becomes a little bit more unbelievable then. Like, I always thought that it was going to go into something slightly supernatural, but for it just to be, oh, it's the devil.
Yeah.
That's where it's like, that's kind of boring because they didn't even do something unique with the devil. It's just, it's just the devil. And, oh, the mom was in on it the whole time. And I think that's the worst part about the ending is they stop the movie to have her explain everything she was doing for like 5-10 minutes straight. And it kills the pacing of the ending there instead of having a naturally diegetic moment there where you kind of learn everything and they piece it together in time. Having this 5, it felt like 10 minutes. Maybe it wasn't actually 10 minutes long. But like flash sequence of flashbacks where she explains everything I did from when you were a kid to now. Here's all the stuff I did that shows how I was actually kind of the person responsible for this the whole time. She's the one that was like delivering all the dolls to all the houses and would be there to make sure that everyone died and she'd get the doll afterwards. And she was the one that like was able to get in the door. It was like, there's a better way to tell that.
Yeah.
And there's a way to have made it more interesting, but it was just the way they showed it with the sequences and then it just being, oh, it's just the devil killing people.
And the way that they tell the story is done really well, but the ending of the story just kind of to be desired. And Nicolas Cage's his moment in the when he gets captured eventually, it just kind of felt a little bit too goofy for me. That's where it started to lose me, when Nicolas Cage started being
Nick Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
Well,
yeah.
so I got a couple funny things. You know how he starts singing "Happy Birthday" and then she pauses it and she goes, "Is that it?" Oh, well, he goes on for 16 minutes. Apparently, they recorded him singing "Happy Birthday" like that for 16 minutes straight. So there's a version of that. And then what was the other thing that I wanted to say about this? The heck, he said something and it made me think. Oh, a movie that I wanted to compare this to, where I think like they're different kinds of movies, but we're like, I feel like this one didn't go far enough. Look at Cabin in the Woods. Or you could say that one's kind of generic. Slight spoilers for Cabin in the Woods. I'd say go see that movie because it's really amazing, but it'd just be like, oh, it's the old gods. But they kind of go just far enough and have such a crazy ending with that movie that it feels satisfying. I feel like this movie didn't go far enough to be satisfying, especially the way they end it. They kind of end it without any real resolution. It's just she shoots her mom and then the movie ends. That's it.
Wonderful. Go see Longlegs. My Hero Academia, you're next at number 9. So, in a society devastated by the effects of an all-out war between heroes and villains, a mysterious giant fortress suddenly appears, engulfing towns and people one after another. Then a man reminiscent of All Might, the symbol of peace, stands in front of Izuku and his friends. This takes a storyline, a portion of the storyline from, I believe it's season 2 or 3 of My Hero Academia, where All Might fights. It's his final fight with, well, at the time, it's his final fight with One for All, with All for One. And when he points to Izuku and says, it's your turn, I'm done, you're the guy now.
Yeah.
There's a guy sitting at home on his TV who thinks that All Might's talking to him for some reason because he's a psychopath. So he dresses like All Might. He has a very unique quirk, which makes people believe he's all. It's not the quirk that makes him believe, but it's the quirk that makes him seem like he's got All Might's abilities.
Do you want to say what it is? Or is that part of the surprise?
I mean, it's not like a big deal or anything, but because he's just a guy. So All Might has the One for All ability, which gives him his, and the fighting spirit, all that stuff. But
something that makes him a threat for like, Deku and the rest of the.
One thing that they do very well in this movie, which is why it's here, is they give a lot of shine to a lot of the side characters, including Lemillion is in this movie. Endeavor, Hawks, all the guys you see on this poster, the 2 side characters, like each of the My Hero Academia movies has these like characters that are on the good side.
Because they have to give you a character that actually has character growth.
Right. And their whole entire story is restricted to this movie. You're not going to see them anywhere else. And they're very interesting characters. The guy, I can't remember his name, but he's excellent. The gal has a special quirk, which is why she's kidnapped. And it's a whole thing, but I highly recommend this movie. Not going to drone on about it, but it's the best one to me. Other than the first My Hero Academia movie, this is the best My Hero Academia movie we've seen so far. And it's an interesting concept, executed extraordinarily well. And the voice acting, as always, English dub, of course.
Yeah, so that Japanese voice acting over in at one of our local places. Let's just play the Japanese voice acting.
Oh yeah, so
we're 2 minutes
Isaiah
in.
and I went to the third movie, and we went to it wasn't our main theater.
Yeah,
and
different.
They advertised it as the dub, played it as the sub. Everyone complained, and they said, we're not switching it because not everyone's here to see the dub. Okay. So I left.
They're like, it's too late. We already started it. And it's like,
it's 4 seconds in.
I know. It's like we're not even 5 minutes into the movie, and everybody wants it changed.
Stupid.
I'm pretty sure people aren't going to mind waiting an extra 10 minutes to get
to
the movie
get what they wanted.
Yeah.
All right, Deadpool and Wolverine, a listless Wade Wilson. Number 8, Deadpool and Wolverine. A listless Wade Wilson toils away in civilian life with his days as the morally flexible mercenary Deadpool behind him. But when his that's BS. When his home universe faces an existential threat, Wade must reluctantly suit up again with an even more reluctant Wolverine.
The main draw of this movie, which is what people had been wanting, is the dynamic of Deadpool and Wolverine and the way they interact with each other. So I think it makes Deadpool 2 like even worse in hindsight now, because you had Deadpool and Cable and they worked well off of each other, but nowhere near as well as Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds do. Getting to see some of these other characters that we haven't seen in a long time, and it kind of being a farewell to that era of superhero movies, I thought all worked very well.
I think that Blade was right. It's probably going to be the only Blade movies, the only Blade ever released.
Yeah.
For me, the Deadpool and Wolverine was about fun. And a long time ago with the MCU, we lost fun. Now, we've had the Deadpool movies for a while, but this is the first one where it's in the MCU. It pokes fun at Fox. There's actually that Fox 20th Century Fox logo is buried in the sand in like the trash desert that they're all thrown into. The appearance of Captain America / Human Torch was my favorite part of the movie. I didn't talk about this when we originally discussed it, but it's everyone, they portray him, they put him in blue.
Nobody saw it.
He jumps down, and Deadpool's expecting him to say Avengers Assemble, and he says Flame On is the biggest reaction that you can get out of me in a movie theater. I was laughing so hard. This is the only movie on this list, with the exception of Heretic, that I've seen twice at the theater, and it was absolutely incredible. Yeah. Now, the other thing is Ryan Reynolds was able to make the tired, boring, awful multiverse interesting and fun. I hate the multiverse. It's stupid. It's lazy. But Ryan Reynolds in this movie, credit to Sean Levy, the director and writer, anyone who had any sort of hand in this movie making fun of Marvel, and Marvel being like, oh, we're going to take our sticks out of our asses for a couple minutes and let you guys have some fun.
And that's kind of like where we're at now, I feel like, with the MCU. Is like you're going to get a bunch of this schlock, but every now and then, you're going to get somebody who knows what they're doing and is going to give you something good. Before Deadpool and Wolverine, Guardians 3 had the only F-bomb dropped just once. And then they dropped it over 250 times in this movie.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, it averages out to 11 F-bombs per MCU movie now because of this one alone. For a lot of people, they were like, well, we never want to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine again because he had the perfect, send-off with Logan. But I'm really glad we got him back for this, because I do think he brings something unique and fun to it, and it is great to see them work off of each other.
Okay, Marvel, I know you listen to this show. I know you tune in every single week to listen. So just listen to me and listen good. Let Ryan Reynolds be a writer for some of these movies that you have coming up. Guy knows how to have fun. And I want to give a shout out because I love one of my favorite characters growing up. And I wish my brother was here so he could confirm. Gambit was one of my favorite characters across the board. Gambit, Venom, Black Panther, Doctor Doom, and Spider-Man. Across the board. That's why Black Panther 1 pissed me off so much, because Black Panther was one of my favorite characters growing up. But I'm going to skip that. I'll stow my anger for a minute. And I need to give a shout out to an actor who I can't stand typically. And that's Channing Tatum. He did a phenomenal job as Gambit. He was ridiculous in the most hilarious fashion. And if there's any justice in this world, there will be a Gambit solo movie written, maybe not directed, but written by Ryan Reynolds.
It sounds like it may happen. We got that extra post-credit scene with Gambit.
I don't think we'll get Ryan Reynolds writing, but we need that.
Yeah. This movie was made for people who have been following the Fox movies, especially the X-Men movies, since they first started coming out. It's
Yeah, I would like to know from anybody who didn't know about Gambit, if it still hit well with them. Because for people like us who followed it,
oh yeah,
it was hilarious. Even if you've checked out of the MCU like I have, go and see this movie. All right, Land of Bad. This is out of our top 10. 7 of these movies were complete surprises to me. Didn't even know what they were by the time they came out. That includes our honorable mentions. So most of these movies are, I'm just gonna go to the theater and see what we got. Russell Crowe, 2 out of the 3 Hemsworth brothers. That is Chris and Luke. Liam and Luke. And this guy who plays Bishop, Ricky Whittle.
I like Milo.
Amazing. When a Delta Force special ops mission goes terribly wrong, Air Force drone pilot Reaper has 48 hours to remedy what has devolved into a wild rescue operation. With no weapons and no communication other than the drone above, the ground mission suddenly becomes a full-scale battle when the team is discovered by the enemy. Liam Hemsworth he's a tech guy. He's a military trained guy, but his main gimmick, and they make it very well known. Oh, you've never killed anyone? Because the other guys, Bishop is a sniper. Luke, they're all trained military special ops guys, but they needed a drone techie dude to come with them. So the whole arc of the movie, and by the way, Russell Crowe, Chef's Kiss, he's the guy in the chair. He's like the sergeant or captain or whatever. When the movie is at its most tense and Russell Crowe is trying to help, Russell Crowe's been at the mission since the start. His lieutenant's trying to get him to like take a break. He's been at it 20 something hours. When it's at its most tense, there's the inner battle. Is Russell Crowe helping or hurting the mission right now? It is absolutely phenomenal. It's now streaming on Netflix, which is good. Liam Hemsworth's character arc is from techie, nervous guy to stone cold killer. This movie was such a pleasant surprise. And again, it's going back to my previous argument for the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. It's a war movie, but it's one of these like sectioned off movies where you're not thinking about the deaths of millions of people for senseless war. So go see Land of Bad, Netflix.
So speaking of surprises and our missing Hemsworth brother, Furiosa Mad Max Saga. I had no intention on watching this movie. I really enjoyed the first one a lot. Or when I say the first one, I mean Mad Max Fury Road. That's the only other Mad Max movie I've seen. I haven't seen the originals with Mel Gibson. But I think that movie is spectacular. It's a movie where the energy is at like a 9 out of 10 for 90% of the movie, but it works. When I saw this one, I was like, I don't really see how they can recapture it. Furiosa, I liked her in the movie, but I wasn't like, I need to see a prequel about her. I like Anya Taylor-Johnson a lot, but it's just like all this stuff. I wasn't really interested. But then like
Anya Taylor-Joy.
What'd I say? Oh, because there's Aaron Taylor-Johnson.
Oh.
Sorry. I mean, like, this is directed by George Miller, and I was completely surprised with how fun this movie is. Now, it's very important to know this is not like Mad Max Fury Road again. It's not a movie where, the energy and, hype levels are at a 9 out of 10 the entire time. It's not like that. It takes its time with some things. But the big reason, if I had to give you one reason to watch this movie, it is Chris Hemsworth's performance in this. He is having so much fun. And it really translates to the audience where he's having so much fun with this movie. You can't help but have fun too. And funnily enough, like Anya Taylor-Joy, she doesn't really show up in the movie herself until more than halfway through it. Because if you like scroll down, you can see the little kid actor. Mm-hmm. She plays an even younger version of Furiosa. And she's the one that you follow for like, I think more than half the movie.
This is the prequel story to Charlize Theron's character from Fury Road.
But very similar, I think, actually, to Fury Road, where like Mad Max is technically the main character, but he's very passive in the movie. It's more focused on the other characters. They do the same thing with her. She's technically the main character, but it's way more focused on the characters around her.
Right.
Second half of the movie, focus does slightly turn a little bit more towards her. But she does a fantastic job, and I like her in the movie a lot. But I was way more invested in like everything else that was going on, and it's very well done. Like I said, big surprise. I was not expecting to like this movie as much as I did. 100% deserves to be on this list, in my opinion. I can't recommend it enough. It's super fun.
Now, we've talked about this movie. We've done a review. We've talked about it quite a bit, so I'll keep this short and sweet. Number 5 on the list, Strange Darling. Nothing is what it seems when a twisted one-night stand spirals into a serial killer's vicious murder spree. Shameless plug here. Attached is the video of the review of Strange Darling. Go see this movie. It was another surprise movie that I was super bored and just didn't have anything going on. Like, okay, this seems kind of interesting. Guy chasing girl seems pretty standard. Let's go watch it. And P.S., if you haven't watched this yet, go watch it. Do not watch the trailer for your own sake. It ruins lives, this trailer.
I'd say for like the rest of the movies, besides like one of them that we're going to be talking about, do not watch the trailer. You have a much better time.
Which ones? Heretic at number 4.
Heretic.
2 young missionaries are forced to prove their faith when they knock on the wrong door and are greeted by a diabolical Mr. Reed becoming ensnared in his deadly game of cat and mouse.
Please go watch this movie. Go in with as little knowledge as possible. And I especially recommend it if you grew up in any type of religious upbringing. Because I think this movie really will speak to you on a different level. And I think part of what makes it a very fun horror, at least for me, was how uncomfortable it left me. Also, Topher Grace was in this, and I totally didn't recognize it.
It doesn't hit me as well as it would like Isaiah, who was raised in an entirely... Now, our family has a religious background. My uncle's a pastor, but it's not like we were restricted based on our parents' religious beliefs like Isaiah was. But I went and saw this movie a second time after you'd praised it quite a bit and you came at it from that other angle. My problem with it the first time I saw it, I originally gave it like a 3.5. My problem with it was that I thought, based on the trailer, now this one I did see a trailer, and I'm very interested because Hugh Grant's phenomenal. I never met these two gals before, but I'll be looking out for them in the future. Now, my issue was that it seemed like when we went into the basement, it was going to be like a series of maze and puzzles that we were going to have to go through, because they show that overhead shot in the trailer of him like placing the pieces. So I thought, I mean, you can see it here in the movie poster. So I thought it was going to be like a Saw type situation. So I was a little bit disappointed the first time I saw it. But having gone back and rewatched it, knowing what I was getting, was extremely enjoyable. It did increase my enjoyment of it. It was similar to our views on what's the Ryan Gosling movie we just talked about?
The Fall Guy?
Where I thought it was going to be action, and then I was disappointed that it was a lot of the love story, but you were thinking, based on how heavy I went on the love stuff, that it was going to be all love stuff. So expectations can certainly shift your perspective. So it is not a Saw type situation. It is the entire movie is based on, do you also buy what you're selling? That kind of deal. Because the two missionary girls their faith is tested, we'll say.
Yeah.
Phenomenal movie. And we're going to move on to number 3, which is another surprising movie. Hate Night with the Devil. Jesus Christ. Hate Night was
the night I watched Long Legs. I had a hate night with the devil at the end.
That's good. Hate Night with the Devil is anytime I watch a Kansas City Chiefs game. All right. David Dastmalchian, Laura Gordon, I don't know her, but David Dastmalchian is one of those guys. He's like a Steve Buscemi type, typically, where he's in a lot of movies. He does great, but he usually has smaller roles. He is the main character of this story, and the guy absolutely freaking nails it.
So good.
A live broadcast of a late-night talk show in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. The entire movie is based around a single talk show episode. They do some camera work to give a little bit of backstory, but typically that stuff's in black and white.
Yeah, they're like, okay, these are behind-the-scenes videos that we got. And they do a nice distinction by making it black and white, where it's just like, so this is a crude footage that we got. Outside of the opening, which, to be fair, is like a good 8 minutes of exposition, but the way it's told is interesting enough where it doesn't feel like a drag. Like, it's exposition. People usually think, oh, exposition, bad. But no, it's bad exposition is bad. This is very good exposition that they have, and it makes it actually intriguing and interesting and gets you set for the movie.
Yeah.
Which is then all either very well, faithfully recreated type footage of an actual live show, or that behind the scenes black and white handheld.
Yeah.
Up until the end.
Hate Night with the Devil sounds like my ex-girlfriend.
So good.
Jesus. Can't believe I said that. So, I'm leaving that in, by the way. That's, yeah.
It's natural. That's why it's the best.
Number 2. So, fun fact, we put our movies together beforehand, and my number 2 is Isaiah's number 1. Isaiah's number 2 is my number 1. So, these movies are 1 and 1A for the best movie of the year. Number 2, Boy Kills World. When his family's murdered, a deaf mute named Boy escapes to the jungle and is trained by a mysterious shaman to repress his childish imagination and becomes an instrument of death.
Yeah, so something fun about this movie is you scroll down and you see, John Benjamin, kind of turn back to Archer there. Maybe like, oh, I don't see him on the poster. It's because he has a very fun role of being the inner voice of Boy, who is played by Bill Skarsgård. So Bill doesn't speak at all in this movie. It's all H. John Benjamin, and he lends this movie what is exactly needed, which is the comedy part of it. Because you have, the voice of Bob's Burgers or Archer speaking in this guy's, voice, and it sounds nothing like Bill Skarsgård. But since it also is an inner voice, it makes this perfect tone, I feel like, with the movie. You just look at the poster, you can see style is written all over it. And I think that's what makes this movie work well, because it's not as deep, but that's not what you come to a movie called Boy Kills World for. What do you come into this movie for? The action, how fun it is. And that's where I think this movie succeeds on all the levels. It's not the same kind of movie as Bullet Train, but I think it's as high as it is, just like it was for me with Bullet Train the year that movie came out, because it knows what it wants to be, and it executes on that, what it wants to be, perfectly.
Back to the voice of Archer. They explain it away. Why does this guy have the voice of a 55-year-old man? It's because the video game he played when he was a kid, that was the voice of it was like a fighter game. It was the voice of the announcer in the game.
And he adopts that voice.
Yeah. It takes you on a weird, strange thrill ride of this guy trying to get revenge. There are some plot twists and turns, which I did not expect. It's like when you watch John Wick, except this one had a little bit more plot thought behind it. I love John Wick. I'm not hating on John Wick, but John Wick is simple revenge, and they set this up in the same way, but they kind of flip your expectations at a certain point in the movie. You're like, who's telling the truth kind of deal.
I think what makes it really fun is they have a very obvious plot twist.
Yeah.
And then they follow up immediately with a not obvious one. So it's like, okay, yeah, you might have saw this one coming, but this one. But I also find it really fun because you have the guy who's on the left side of the poster there, where he's just some random guy that you come across and be like, oh, this guy might get annoying, but ends up being like, oh, I actually really like this guy, and he's really fun and has some great moments.
And they do a fantastic job of certain things. Like there's one guy who speaks in slang the whole time. And since Boy doesn't necessarily
He
he's
mumbles.
reading lips.
Yeah, because he mumbles.
And yeah, he's mumbling and he's also speaking slang, so he doesn't understand what the guy's saying, so he kind of just smiles and nods and fills in the blanks. It's
like they'll
fantastic.
They'll have him say what boy thinks he's saying and then like act it out.
Yep.
And it's once again just the comedy. Like I don't see it. It just says crime thriller action, but I think it's equal parts comedy, and that's what really makes the movie fun.
And another movie that came out of nowhere. This movie was actually already out, and you told me about it.
Mm-hmm.
You hadn't seen it yet either, but you were like getting ready to go to it. I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. But this is one of 3 movies that I actually own physical editions to, and we're going to talk about one in a second. Number 1, the top movie of 2024, the 1 in 1A to our Boy Kills world, The Substance. A fading celebrity decides to use a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. Now, I do enjoy that the overview doesn't spoil what's actually happening, but I'm about to. Demi Moore plays an aging celebrity. She's a fitness lady who she's got to be in her 60s now.
Yeah.
She takes a drug, which we all think she's going to turn into Margaret Qualley's character. But no. Her back opens up like a goddamn like a locust or whatever, and she spawns another version of herself. Now, what's the gimmick here? Why isn't it just another person? Well, it's technically the same person. They have to split time exactly equally.
She like transfers her consciousness.
Yeah, between the 2 bodies using the drug, and stuff gets out of control. The movie is a mind freak. It's kind of like a weird moral story as well.
It's a great video. It's a great like look at the social perceptions of age in the industry.
Yeah.
Well, like I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when when Elizabeth Starr is getting ready for her date with Fred.
Mm-hmm.
And like she keeps coming back to the mirror whenever she sees Margaret Qualley or Sue.
Yeah.
Like that scene just really hits hard because you're just constantly like, no, you are good enough. You don't have to look that pretty, but that's the whole idea what the thing is like. And I have to say special shout out to Dennis Quaid, who is so good in this movie. He is so despicable and gross. Every time you see him doing something, it's just like so disgusting, but he like plays the role so well. But it's heartbreaking at times. That's why this movie's so good, because it's not just a horror movie. It's not just a drama. It's not just a science fiction. It's all these things that just merge together, and it's not just a hodgepodge. It all fits together perfectly.
Yeah. Now, I highly recommend this, obviously.
Yeah.
But without spoiling the ending, I know we've done some spoilers already, but I so much recommend this. The last like 20 minutes go completely off the rails, so prepare yourselves. I feel like for good portions of this movie, I didn't blink. I knew the basics of what it was about, but it was so much more than just a weird body horror movie.
I would say with 100% yeah, I know. I would say with 100% confidence that anybody who doesn't go into, or anybody who goes in this movie not having had it spoiled for you, you will not guess how this movie ends. It is so off the wall weird what they do.
Yep.
That it is like impossible to guess.
Shout out to Demi Moore, by the way, for not totally butchering her face with plastic surgery. She still looks like Demi Moore. So,
and that's the other thing that's like once again crazy about the movie is it's like, oh man, she thinks she doesn't look pretty enough, but it's just like, oh, she still got it.
Yeah.
And that's just like what society makes you think is, oh, you're 50 or 60 now, you're not this 20 something hot thing, you're ugly. But it's like, stop, that's awful.
Yep. And then greed, there's a big greed. There's a huge, not all 7 deadly sins, but there's a deadly sins aspect to it, and it's just such a, it's one of those movies. I'm trying to think of if any of these other ones had me like that. No, this is the movie of the year that had me. I got out of the movie, sat home, didn't turn on the TV or my phone, or it kind of just sat in our recliner and just thought about it. It's one of those movies where you're just like, what did, and this was a film festival movie as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one, but kudos to the people who just showed up to a film festival,
Yeah, I got to
and got
watch
the
this.
movie of the year. So
Also happy to see that
yeah.
like not as successful revenue wise as we probably would have liked, but it is super cool to see that the movie did make money.
Yep. But yeah, if you check out the emojis up here, there's a sick, there's a puking, and there's a mind blown. So that pretty much sums
explains
it
the movie.
in one. Three emojis explain the entire movie. Those were our top 10 movies. Let us know. Did we miss any? Is there any movies possibly that we haven't seen that you saw that you think was the best movie of the year or better than any of these movies here?
Yeah, but for sure let us know, because I know like last year I didn't see Iron Claw and I didn't put it on my list. It was like the second movie I saw this year, and I was like, man, that would have made my list easily. So that's usually what I do, is like the first like 5 movies I'll watch in 2025 are 2024 movies I didn't get around to watching that I hear are really good. So yeah, for sure let us know, because I'll definitely try to check some of those out.
I'm trying. Oh, that okay. I was trying to think of what my top movies were for each year. The Hunt in 2020, American Underdog 2021, Top Gun Maverick 2022, Iron Claw 2023, and The Substance joins this list. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys later.
Peace.